Jonny, you opened your remarks in the clip that we played by gently criticizing another pastor who was saying the silly thing that he said. Help me understand why so many pastors are falling for that line of thinking. Where does that come from? How did we get here?
First of all, I would have my initial gut reaction to say I have no idea. But then I do have an idea. I think it's first of all because there's a level where people have a misconception of even what voting means. You know, they might not have a favorable viewpoint on Donald Trump, so it's anything but Trump. And that's clearly what he said in his tweet, never Trump. And they think Trump is, you know, a bad man and he's done this. But I think it's also from a failure to understand that ultimately what you're voting for is a figurehead that represents a coalition of 5,000 people that are going to be in public office. And you're not just voting for a personality, you're voting for these policies that best represent the worldview of the scripture. And so I think, and part of the reason, Charlie, I was so motivated to say something is I think a lot of pastors, they understand their God-given commission to preach the Bible, but as it relates to politics, there might be not necessarily an understanding. And at times I'm probably growing in my fluency there. But he doesn't like Trump, and so he's voting for the opposite of Trump, which would be Kamala. And I think sometimes it's because maybe they think that's more compassionate to the immigrant, which would come from a flawed understanding of God's commission to individuals in the church in contrast to the state. So I think people misunderstand a few of those realities.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. So you spoke clearly about it. Let's now talk about the other component. Why is it that a vast majority of Christians and pastors, a vast majority of pastors and churches will not speak out at all, will not instruct their congregation with a biblical worldview? To your great credit, you had the courage to step on the pulpit and say things that were biblical, that pleased God, but might not have pleased man. What drove you to do that? And why is it that so many other pastors are silent?
You know, Charlie, it's been an interesting week for me because I've gotten messages from all over the world and people were thanking me for my boldness. I didn't even know I was being bold. I thought this was just calling a spade a spade. I think, though, because pastors have written me since then, and I think even then, like, I wanted to call it what it is, but I think that there's a hesitancy because people want to not divide their flock. I think that there's a hesitancy because sometimes people don't want to forfeit influence with maybe people that view things differently. And my rebuttal to that would be is that some people are so afraid of losing influence that they don't influence anybody because they try to toe a line for so long. I think sometimes guys aren't articulate or necessarily they're not equipped to be able to handle the political conversation. And I would just encourage them saying, hey, you don't have to talk politics. You just need to preach the Bible. And where there's that intersection of the political and the spiritual and theological, you need to stand firm on where God has drawn the line in the sand in his precious and authoritative word. And I think they just need to be encouraged. And to be honest, I think the people in their church need to encourage them saying, hey, we want to be able to think and view, we want to be able to think and view the world through a biblical lens. So please teach us the Bible. I referenced Nehemiah in my sermon on Sunday, and it says in Nehemiah 8:1 that the people came to Ezra and said, teach us the Bible, preach us the word. And I think people are starving for a biblical perspective on the reality that we're currently facing. And I think that's why they should encourage pastors who may be hesitant and fearful.
Jonny, thank you for your clarity and your moral courage. I wish more pastors were like you. If we had 5,000 pastors like you, the country would be in a much better place. Jonny, thank you so much.